This show is designed to help you grow, because that's what you need. It's what your wife needs, your church, your neighborhood, your kids, and your work. So let's learn how to build good things and take on the challenges and struggles of life together. To do this, we have to get physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. And if that's what you've been looking for, then I'm glad you're here. My name is Luke Zedwick, and this is my Culture Builders class. Welcome to my class. Those of you who are new here, my name is Luke Zedwick, and I've been a long-time educator and now consultant and author. And I wanted to build this class of people who are interested in building positive culture, because everywhere I look, I see culture disintegrating before our very eyes. And a lot of people have tried to look back to the past and preserve what once was, but I think that that is a fool's errand. I think it's time to build something new. And if that's what you want to do, in whatever area of life that you've been placed with influence, welcome. So we're going to cover topics in this class from leadership, teaching, parenting, culture in general, as in like the arts, and then getting healthy personally in your own body, and marriage and relationships. We're also going to try to get a little bit inspired, and so hopefully that'll be part of what we do here. So welcome. If anything that I share is of value to you, I hope you'll share it as well. Let's get started. The first topic I want to talk about today is leadership, as I always do first. And I want to talk about the topic of personality tests. It's something that has been coming up a lot recently. I've been recently doing work with an organization that goes into schools and correctional facilities for youth and talks about relational health. And so much of leadership is about having and maintaining positive relationships with the people that you influence or supervise. And personality tests can be a great way to facilitate that, because it helps you understand the motives, the fears, the inspiration that's going to impact the people around you. And they're not just going to be like you. And I've seen many leaders assume that either the successful employees will be like them, and anyone who's not like them in their motive or in their outlook or in their personality, to tell you the truth, that those people must be deficient somehow, and their goal becomes as leaders to try to get them to be more like the leader. That's not a successful strategy. People should not try to mimic you in style and personality, in tone of voice. If they are, then you are creating essentially a cult around your leadership. Don't do that. Avoid that. In fact, it's a major red flag. If people who you lead start to mimic you, dress like you, talk like you, and act like you, it's too much. It means you've centered yourself in the culture of your organization. So here's what personality tests are great for. They're great for helping people know that they are welcome, that they are accepted for who they are, that they have strengths to bring, and that they have weaknesses that need to be supported and bolstered. We all have both of those. And for many people in leadership, they come with maybe a dominant personality. They're a little more fearless, perhaps, than others. And so they assume everyone should be dominant or fearless, or that they're failing. Don't assume that. I know I'm repeating myself, but I want to say that again and again. And so I would encourage you as a leader to study personality styles. The couple that have just come up in my life in recent weeks, one of them is the DISC, and I took some notes here because I've heard of it, but I hadn't really been familiar with it. Maybe you've heard of the DISC personality test. Sometimes people talk about it in terms of the lion, the beaver, the golden retriever, and the otter, which also correspond to the DISC. It stands for dominant, influencer, stable, and compliant. Compliant? Yeah. Okay. So you need all those people in your organization, which means you need to give honor to what motivates them and not just what motivates you. There are several, and I tried today to actually go through one organization I'm working with is a women's health clinic who got the grant that's going to pay for me to go into schools and teach relational health. And so they really love something called the color code or the people code. I have the book right here by Dr. Taylor Hartman. And it's been good. I've been going through it, trying to understand the colors that they have. They also break into 4 categories, like the disc does. But each category is a color: red, blue, white, and yellow, which are interesting. What the colors mean, essentially, the author's intent was to correspond them to earth, water, wind, and fire, right? But they come with their own core values. It doesn't really line up with the disc. It's a whole different system based on a different core assumption about people. And that's okay. It doesn't really matter what the personality system is that you adopt. Find one that connects with you, but use it to help you forgive or understand how other people work so that you can forgive them, or so you can avoid the temptation to hold against them their weaknesses simply because they're not the weaknesses that you have. All right, so that's a little window into leadership. I want to also show you, and I've got a diagram for this, something that could be really relevant to teachers. Teachers, you are, as much as you are an instructor on the facts and skills that kids need to acquire in your class, you're also a coach. You're a motivational coach for your students. And as such, you need to coach the entire student. And so I would encourage you to think about them, and this connects to personality in some ways, but think about your students as a 3-part being: their heart, their mind, and their body. Or for kids, we say their hands, right? Something practical. What do they do? Here's why that can be really helpful. And heart is not simply like your emotions. There are definitely some, you can think of it as their subconscious. So there's some deeply held emotions in the subconscious, especially things like fear. But more so than that, there are some intrinsic subconscious beliefs that people acquire at a very early age about who they are. And then there are these pivotal moments through our life where we take on new beliefs. And those moments can be moments of joy or moments of suffering. Usually, for whatever reason, it's moments of suffering that really cement in us beliefs about ourselves and about others, where we fit in the world. And those beliefs come from the heart. When you, as teachers, are coaching your students, I want you to coach them in their habits, which is their hands, their body. What are the habits and the routines and the sort of practical skills of getting their work done? So one example could be finding a time and a place to consistently, routinely study or read or do your work. You create those in class, you encourage them to create them at home. And in the online environment, it's all the same. So they need it more than ever because they don't have the structure that you would normally give them. So you have to teach it to them explicitly, whereas in the past you might have said, here's the rules for this class, here's how it works, and they fall into it naturally. They have to create those rules, which means you have to teach them how to set those values for themselves. So that's the hands or the body. The second thing is the mind. What are the plans, the goals, the ideas that they carry with them that guide their decision making? And you want to teach them to put their mind in charge, their thinking mind, more than their emotional mind, more than their reactive mind. And an incredibly powerful way to do that is to get them to verbalize, either with their voice or in writing, what it is they think, what it is they want, what it is they believe about themselves and the world. The more you can do that, no matter what the subject is, the more you're training their mind to kind of be at the front of the train and drive it, rather than putting their emotions at the front of the train and going off the rails, which many students do. Which is not to say that emotions are negative or that you shouldn't have them. Of course you should. They should be in concert with you. You want to be a whole person. You don't want to shut off your emotions. But you also, because emotions can come and go so quickly, especially like just your mood, can be affected by how good your sleep was or what you had for breakfast. You don't want that to drive your life. You don't want that to help make your decisions. You want to think long term. And then you want to connect the heart. And the heart connects to a couple things. It does connect, like I said, to that subconscious, but it also deeply is affected by your relationships with others. And so helping people to understand that they're safe in the environment of your class is incredibly powerful. And that safety comes from being safe from a fear of rejection, right? Or persecution, or being targeted for something especially outside of their control, but maybe something that was within their control. Maybe they did fail on a test that they shouldn't have. Maybe their abilities don't match their potential because they aren't exerting the effort they need. And so you want to coach them with some pushing, with some pulling, with some positive outlooks for the future. But you want to coach the whole person. So I would encourage you to help them learn how to communicate so they get their needs met. So if you're going to reach the threefold person, the heart, the mind, and the hands, then you're going to focus on communication in relationships, right? So that you can get your needs met in your heart. Plans and goals, ideas that matter, especially turning those into habits and skills in the body. If the ideas and goals never become habits and skills, then they're kind of useless. I know a lot of really smart people with tons of useless facts stored in their brain. That's me. I have tons of them. But I have to convert them into skills. I have to convert it into action, or it's a waste of time. It really is. Except on board games. You can do really well on like trivia-based games, or Pictionary. But life is not Pictionary, as you know. All right, let's talk about parents. Parents, I want you to piggyback on the teachers, and especially that practical habits and routines. One of the things that we're doing in our life right now, because we're still sort of in this weird half at school, half not, where our kids only go to school 3 hours a day, but they need to be learning more than that. And we really saw, my wife and I, how much time is being wasted and how much temptation our boys get to just be drawn into useless entertainment, mindless entertainment. So what we did is we created a calendar, a schedule, like a weekly schedule, some things that never change. And we left some things open for their input, but we really carved out the morning before school, really between 7 and 8, to create a morning routine. It's going to create a checklist, and I'm going to do the routine with them and train them to get up and get moving and not stop until the routine is complete. So from 7 to 8, it's a non-stop. It's workout, it's brush your teeth, take a shower, have breakfast, and do some of the simple chores. In our house, it's the dishwasher chores. Then from 8 to 3 is this chunk that is learning. School now isn't 8 to 3 for us. And so they get some, and I'm excited about this, they get some choice into what it is they're going to be learning in that time. And I sort of dangled the carrot of media time, whereas normally we'd shut down their access to things like YouTube. But with supervision and a specific goal in mind that they have to present to me and get cross-examined by me about what those goals mean and what they're actually going to come up with, they can use the media, specifically YouTube, but it could be anything, to acquire skills. And that's my focus, not to gain information. Because as I was a kid, my mom used to say I could watch TV as long as it was educational. And I, being the couch potato that I was, especially between the ages of about 10 and 14, although I carried longer than that, maybe longer than I want to admit. As a couch potato, I was willing to watch hours and hours of the most boring PBS documentaries in order to just stay in front of the vegetative state of television and not have to think for myself and do things of my own. So we want to avoid that. We want to avoid just, even if it's educational, just the mindless download of knowledge, and instead say, what are the skills you're going to acquire and how can I help you get there? So create that schedule, make your own version, get input from your kids, and add some negotiation to that. It could be really positive. All right, we still have a few more topics to cover, but I want to pause right now and ask you to share this, like it, subscribe to what we're doing. If you want to be part of this community of culture builders, you are welcome to be here. And if it's helping you, I ask that you kind of help other people find it by doing the things you know to do. Everybody says. All right, let's talk about culture. I got to share last night at church, and it was on a topic that I don't normally get to cover. And I'm going to post that video of the sermon on this channel as well. But it was talking about the arts and what is the Christian, biblical view of art, and how does it relate to, as I was talking about earlier, that heart, mind, and hands. And it sort of brought me up to it. The idea in a biblical sense is that God is a three-in-one God, a Christian God, that He's Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and we represent the image of God. The Bible says we're made in His image. because we have those three parts too. We have a body, a soul, and a spirit. And sometimes in the Bible, the word spirit can mean heart. Sometimes the word soul can mean heart. It kind of goes back and forth. The Bible is not a textbook. It's not a psychology textbook. It's not a science textbook, although it has lots of both of those things in it. But what we made the point of, and I want you to think about, is that the same way that God is those three things in one, that his mind and his heart are never at odds with each other, but ours are. We often are at odds with ourselves. And the purpose of good art, not only well-made, but well-intended art, the purpose of it is to bring your heart and your mind into unity, and from that find a practical, physical step that you can take to make a difference. And so a good painting, a good movie, a good song, a well-crafted machine, a well-made computer, all these things reflect and allow you access to the ideas of the truth as a capital T, universal truth of all mankind. And if done well, maybe we can all think of a movie that stirred emotions in us that we weren't really aware were there. That's your heart connected to your mind. That's what good art does. So I want you to think about that. What's the art that you expose yourself to? How does it influence what you think and believe in that deepest place of your subconscious? And are the beliefs that the art you consume, are they true? Or is it fluff? Is it formulaic? Does it just satisfy the short-term gratification of whatever it is your personality desires? And I want to challenge you. I want to challenge you to patronize good art, because that allows all of us to get more of it. And then also I want to challenge you to make something good. Make something that will last. Not necessarily a painting, although that's something I've been trying out lately. But make something that will last in any genre, in any form of building. And what you do is you build culture. You build meaning, and that's worthwhile. And then you have to share it. You have to share it, or it's not art. It's just an exercise. Speaking of exercise, let's talk about getting healthy, getting physically strong. I'm at probably week 4, maybe, with my dad, where we are meeting every morning at 7 a.m. on Facebook Rooms. And then I share my screen and we do one of the myriad of workout videos on YouTube. And we don't have a really solid, system of working out. There's a lot of people who do this on Mondays and that on Tuesdays and this on Wednesdays, etc. We're not really into that. We're just doing a 20 to 40 minute exercise. We have some dumbbells that we use in the process too. Usually it's whole body, but occasionally it's just upper body or just legs. But it's been great. And part of that morning routine that I've added with my boys, that schedule, is to include them in that workout with their grandpa, using the laptop in the kitchen and a bunch of dumbbells that we've collected over the years. And dumbbells are really hard to find. I think this is a lockdown consequence, but prices for dumbbells has gone way up in the last few months. But thankfully we have a collection that we've had for a few years, and it's getting put to good use again. So that's awesome. I want to encourage you to do the same. Find the people that you're working with. Find some people that you're challenging to grow, like I'm doing with my sons. And then also get that schedule. I'll meet you at a certain time. And actually, if you wanted to find me on Facebook and join the room, you're welcome to it. We could add more people to that. It would be fun to meet people and to work out together. All right, so one thing I want to do, my last topic is marriage. I want to talk to you about how you, especially gentlemen, how you support your wife. And in particular, I want you to ask her about her inner monologue. Is that right? Inner dialogue? What's her self-talk like? What kind of attitude does she have about herself? Not about you necessarily, because I want to encourage you that your marriage is not about you, although you're a major participant in it. But your job as the leader of your marriage is to, in the same way that we talked earlier about teachers coaching the whole self, your job as a husband is to lead and coach your wife in her whole self, in her heart, in her mind, and in her hands, her body, her habits and her skills. And so in this way, I want you to check in on that heart, not just checking in on how well she feels loved, which is a common one. If you're not doing that, I'd recommend it. I would guess she's pretty good at advocating and diagnosing that. What she might not be good at, and what I would encourage you to help her with, is checking on the health of the inner self-talk and whether it's helping her or if it's leading her in a negative focused direction. And have that conversation and try to avoid giving advice as much as helping her reflect on its value. All right, I want to leave you with a quote from a Nobel laureate, Alexander Solzhenitsyn, who famously escaped the gulags of the Soviet Union, and he wrote an incredibly influential work called The Gulag Archipelago. When he received his Nobel Prize, he gave a lecture, and this is a quote from that lecture. I want you to listen. It's about art and the truth. Here's what it says. The simple step of a simple, courageous man is not to partake in falsehood, not to support false actions. Let that enter the world, let it even reign in the world, but not with my help. But writers and artists can achieve more. They can conquer falsehood. In the struggle with falsehood, art always did win, and it always does win. Openly, irrefutably, for everyone. Falsehood can hold out against much in this world, but not against art. I think that's powerful and true, but only if it's true art that brings the body, the mind, and the soul together, that speaks the truth courageously, and doesn't encourage you to indulge in your cynical or short-sighted desires. And I want to challenge you not just to be someone who refuses to support falsehood and false actions. I want to challenge you to be an artist in the work that you do, that your whole self is given to it, and wholeheartedly. My name is Luke, and this is my Culture Builders class. I hope it helps. See you next time.